Welcome everyone. In today's class, we will discuss DDL, DML and DCL SQL commands in our subject database management system. So starting with DDL is basically used for defining the skeletal structure of our relation. So in our database, we have multiple relations. We also term them as in name as tables. So it defines how the data is organized and how the relation among them are associated. So basically, what is a schema? A schema is the skeleton structure, and that represents the logical view of the entire database. It defines how the data is organized and how the relations among them are associated. And some other key definitions, such as what is data definition language. So data definition language are collection of those statements which are directly related to database schema. So how these statements are directly related to database schema? First of all, we will know what is a database schema. For instance, let us discuss what is a schema. For example, if you are discussing a table student, okay. So if in our database there is a relation termed as student, so it will have certain fields such as student name, roll number, age, department, suppose taking one more attribute as city. So basically the student relation is defined in terms of its fields, name, roll number, age, department and city. So all these definitions needs to be described in its schema. So along with the field attribute names as name, roll number, age, department, city, with their properties like what is the data type of name, including the size that will be required to store this name in the database. So all such definitions are stored in the schema and it is described in database library or database, we can say metadata. So basically metadata information or database library holds the schema definitions related to the relation. Okay. So basically for creation of these schema, we need certain language that is basically termed as data definition language. Okay. So it includes the statements as create, alter, drop, replace and truncate. So we will discuss all these statements one by one. Coming to the first, what is create? So basically when we need to create an object in our database, and objects be like table, functions and views. Okay. So when we create a table, it basically follows certain commands to create, like create table, table name is here student, having student roll number with its data type number, and it is also defined as primary key for this relation. The second attribute is name, and this name is varchar2 type and it holds the size of 20. Then another attribute is cast, which is a data type of varchar2 and size having 20. Okay. So for certain creation of these objects, for example, we will discuss the example of creating a table. Okay. So here we have discussed this, create table student with attribute student roll number, student name and cast along with their data types and size. Also the constraint is also described here. For example, in this case primary key is defined. This primary key is student roll number for this relation. Okay. So basically the table will look like this, having the fields student roll number, name and cast. So moving on to the next, which is alter. Alter basically used for any changement that is basically done on the schema. So basically the schema holds the relation name, the data type of its attributes along with the size. So any changement that is required in our relation in terms of its properties, then we will use alter command. So if in case this alter is on table, whether it is used on user, if you want to create a user, we will create user command, create user. There are certain types of user along with their uh, attributes, okay, that will be defined using the create command. So we can also use create for creation of users. So if already there are some users, we want to change the user functionalities and user you can say what can be the commands that can be used by the users, okay, we can use the alter command for certain changement applied on user. Then also if the database is also defined in our database directory, so if in case we want to change some properties of database, then we will use alter database. So here the example is given for this our relation student. Here we are performing addition of an extra field, that is address, okay. So initially we have only three fields, roll number, name and caste. Then we are adding one more attribute, address, having the data type of nvarchar2, okay, along with the size, as the size that is required for address will be needed more than name and caste. So here we are using size of 50 because the address field includes more number of words required to save it, okay. So for example, here we are altering this table, this schema is already created here using this command. Then we want to change, and change is what, we are adding an extra attribute or field in this existing schema. Then we have to apply the alter command using this alter table, and this command is working on this table. So alter table, table name student, add basically used for adding a new attribute or field in this relation, and this field name is address and its data type is nvarchar2 having its size of 50, okay. So here we can see after running this command, we will get our schema redefined with one added field as address. If we want to describe our schema, we can just use desc command or full describe command with its table name. Like if you want to describe this table, then we will write down desc and then student. This will basically describe the schema of this table, okay. Then what is the next command? Drop, okay. So before moving on to the next drop, I also like to discuss some additional activities that can be performed using the alter command over the schema. We can also add an extra attribute to our existing schema. Also we can if you want to reduce, then we can also drop the field if you want from the existing relation. So if in the first example we have student roll number, name and caste, if you want to drop this field, okay, then what we will do, we will write the command as alter, okay, and alter table, okay. Table is what? Student, okay. Then what we want to, initially we were added a field, extra field, that was addresses. If you want to remove this caste field, then what we will write? Alter table student, and then we will write down drop, and here we are just removing this column, then we will write down column, okay, and column is what? Cast. Okay, so if we run this SQL command, it will ultimately drop this field, and there will be only student roll number, name and address only. This particular field along with all its values, basically for example here we have created only, so there will be no value, but this field will be ultimately gone from here. So we will have only these three fields. Okay, I think everyone got my point. So what can extra alter can be used for? For example, we have added an additional field, we have removed an field. Okay, what extra we can do using this alter command? So we can also change the properties. Okay, if in case here are student roll number, name, caste, for example, before dropping it existed here. Okay, and addresses. Okay, so if in case any property we want to change, what we will do? We will just write down command alter table, table name, and we will just write down, we will describe the same field with the new properties. It will ultimately overwrite the existing properties. Okay, for example, if we want to change this data type of name, or for example, if you want to change the size of this name, here existing size is 20. Okay, and the data type is varchar. So if you want to change this varchar to char only, or for n varchar, what, for example, okay, so example we are just changing the data type along with its size. What we'll write down? We will write down alter table, and table name is student. Okay, then we are just modifying the property of this only. Okay, so we will just write down the field name. Okay, so what we'll do? Okay, and we are modifying it. So one additional, okay, what? Modify. Okay, here we are using modify. So alter table student, modify, and modifying what? Name. Okay, we are modifying the name, so name with its properties. Okay, so we are not changing the field name, we are just changing its properties. The properties are its data type and size. So for example, we are changing it to char. Okay, and the size, let it, we are doing 40. So we are just using this command. Okay, we can change the characteristics, the properties associated with this attribute. Here the attribute name is name. So after performing this query, okay, we will get the varchar to the char only, and the size 20 to 40. Now we, if in case the name is longer than the 20 words, it will be added to 40 words. Okay, I think so we have added, we have removed one column. Okay, so and we also modifying the properties. Okay, so what else we can do? We can also change the name. Okay, we can change the field names if we want. So using the rename command. Okay, so also this is also applied over here, as well as this can be also used for a relation. Okay, let's moving on here. Okay, so drop, one use of drop we have already discussed in our alter command. What if we use this drop command in our relation only? For example, if we write down, like we have existing drop table student. Okay, if in case we write down this, what will be? It will ultimately delete the table student from the database. If in case we want to perform certain operation, after performing this drop, we will not found this relation, because this operation is non-reversible. Okay, this is non-reversible. Every command we are using in our DDL is basically non-reversible. Okay, so this cannot be undone. So if this table is dropped from our database, then if in case we want some operation related to a student, it will not be found. Okay. Now, so here we have taken an example. We have created a table extra with the field number and name with its data type and define the primary key. Okay, and its names data type is and varchar with size 20. Okay, if you perform this operation, this extra trouble will gone forever from our database. So using this command, we can drop table, we can drop user, and as well as we can drop function. We have also seen the use of drop along with alter in previous example. Okay, so this is basically replace. Replace is basically here if you want to rename the change. We have already discussed this. If you want to rename the fields, okay, so we will discuss it along with this example. For example, here the existing table is student. If we want to replace it with the new name students, then we will write down rename, okay, old name to new name. What is the common syntax for this? Rename old name to new name. Okay, this is old, this is new. Okay, so whatever will be written after 2 will ultimately overwrite to the first one. Okay, so now if we want to describe the table, okay, which student, okay, what will happen? Because this table is not there, the name has been changed, it will not return any schema. So what we need to write? We need to write students, then only we will get the schema for this relation, because we have renamed it to the new name. Okay, so what if we want to change the attribute name? Okay, if you want to replace, then it will work along with the alter. Okay, so we have to write down alter table. For example, we have taking this new rename table as students. Okay, and now what we are doing, we want to rename, so we will write down rename. Okay, and the old name, suppose we want to convert it to the new one, casts. Okay, like this. So alter table students, rename cast to cast. So it will done, it will ultimately do what? This cast will be now casts. Okay, we can fetch it after performing this describe students. Now we can see that this cast is replaced by this cast. Okay, now what is truncate used for? So basically this truncate is used for deleting all the records existing in a relation. For example, after performing certain DML operations, we have inserted several records in our students table, and those records are maintained in our database. So if in case we run this truncate, and truncate what? Truncate our table, whatever table, our table is this. So if we truncate this table, what will ultimately happen? This will delete all the records that are inserted in this table, and the schema will be maintained as well. This schema will not affect with this truncate operation. Okay, we need to remember that if we perform the drop, then only this relation is deleted forever. But if we perform the truncate operation, it will ultimately delete all the rows, but not the relation. Relation will be as it is, as it was created. Okay, now moving on to next, DML. DML stands for data manipulation language. So data manipulation language is used for what? These are used for the query language for manipulating the data existing in a schema object. So what are the operations defined within the DML? That are insert operation, update operation, and delete operation. So initially starting with the insert operation, when we have created a relation, for example, we have a student relation, so having some fields like name, roll number, and age. So we have to insert certain records, and those records will be inserted using this insert command. Okay, if in case certain records having some value needs to be get changed, in that case we will use update command to change those values. And if in case we want to delete some selected record or the entire inserted record, we will perform the delete operation. Okay, so moving on to first the insert. So insert, the syntax is insert into table values. Okay, so this is the table name, and whatever values we are going to insert is defined within the bracket, and we need to remember that all the characters will be with single quotation within the. For example, here we have student roll number, name, caste and address. So our syntax will be insert into students values and bracket open. For the first record, the student number is, roll number is 3, name is RA because it is character type, varchar type, so it is basically will be defined in within the quotation. Then second one is caste, caste is Bhatti, so this is the. Then address. Okay, so we can see here, after performing this insert operation, we have created the first record within our relation. Okay, then if you want to insert another, okay, so insert into students values. Okay, all the attributes values are provided according to the sequence that were given and defined in our relation. Okay, so can we change this sequence? Yes or no? No. Why? Because the schema definition whatever given in the creation, according to that only the values needs to be get inserted. Okay, if we change the sequence, then it will create an error. Now update, the next DML syntax command is update. So update is used to modify data. For example, if here we have given some name, for example, if here is given Atif. Okay, so the address was previously as UK, now we want to change it to the Nopsa, whatever. Okay, so for this we will write down the syntax update whatever our table name, update table name, and we required set for putting the new value. Okay, and the new value we doesn't require the previous value because it overrides the previous value. Okay, so overrides the previous value. So here sets what? Sets this field. This field is what? Address. So set address. Okay, this. Okay, and now we have to identify where we are modifying. We are modifying, okay, what? This record. So for this record to be identified, we need its primary key. Okay, so if we have some primary key attribute, then we can directly use the primary key attribute. For example, if we using name only. So if there is no repetition in name, then it will fetch the unique record. Okay, for example, here only Atif 1 and only Atif is there. So here where name is Atif, we can perform this operation. But basically, in case of multiple records, there may be possibility having more than one Atif, then we will select, like here we will select where std student roll number is equal to 3. Okay, this will 100% get you this record all the time because this is primary key and it is non-repetitive and not null. Okay, now what is delete statement? This is basically used to delete the row. Okay, so we have inserted some rows in our table, okay, using the insert command. If we want to be we want to delete some records from our table, we want to delete some rows. So first of all, we need to identify those records. We can use our primary key or some common attributes where we want to perform the delete operation. So here in our table student, we want to delete those records having this name. Okay, so this will ultimately delete student where name is equal to Asan. For example, here if existing, then only this record will be identified and the entire record will get deleted from the table. Okay, now what is DCL? Data control language. Data control language statements are used for grant privilege. So there are multiple types of, you can say, users. Okay, so using the same database, but the users may be of different types, and according to their you can say the user types, they have some types of restrictions over the database accessibility. So those restrictions can be applied according to the types of operation they can perform on the database, okay, using the SQL command. So for this, DCL is dedicated, and DCL basically use control language as grant and revoke statement. So grant is basically for providing some specific grants privilege, like if in case the particular kind of user, a particular user can use the operation of update or insert or create. Okay, so basic those types of privilege can be provided and also can be revoked by the database administrator. Okay, so grant is for privileges to other users or role apart from the DBA. So grant like what? Select, update, insert. Okay, for example, here we have student table. Okay, and the user is David. So we want that David can use the select operation, update operation and insert operation over this student table. Okay, so if this privilege is given to David, then only he can perform the operation. If it is revoked, then he cannot perform these operations on this relation. Okay, so if in case if the grant is already given, we want to revoke it, then we will write down revoke. Okay, and revoke what? Those commands that we want to revoke. We can be selective on the operations that we want to revoke, or the all the given credit, all the given privilege if you want to take back, then only we will write down all the commands that we want to take back. So here we will write down revoke, select, update, insert on employee from David. Okay, so here we have changed the table. We can also write here that what? Students. Okay, so we can write down revoke, select, update, insert on students from David. So David cannot perform these operations on student table. Okay, thank you for